Well, let's get into the conversation this morning with Dr. Abiodun Oshiemi, who is a legal medicine expert. He's also a forensic expert as well as a medical doctor. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That part where a diplomat, said that unruly behavior is considered a terrorist attack. I didn't know that, and it was a shock. Do you think it is something anyone was even aware of? Has it affected our conduct in any way?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you and the management of Channels TV for this interview. It's primarily meant to be a knowledge-sharing exercise, and it's also good to make some disclosure and declaration that I'm not a lawyer, neither have I been paid to come and speak, but I think knowledge-sharing occasions are particularly important in situations like this because there is a dearth of legal medicine and forensic experts in this part of the world. Specifically to your question, I'll also be answering more with the United Kingdom and English laws than Nigeria, so that I'll bring some relevance because we're just going on this kind of journey, and that's what's going to guide most of the things. That said, unruly behavior in aviation can range from hijacking a plane. In other words, you go to the cockpit, punch the captain or whoever, and that's a very felonious, serious offense. Unruly behavior can include beating any passenger or any cabin crew person. It's unruly, and it can even be preventing the motion of the plane, which threatens other people and other persons in the aerodrome. So that's the scope of what unruly behavior really means. But I'm sure as we proceed, you may then start saying, when somebody is unruly, what ought to be done or what ought not to be done.
Sometimes unruly behavior, could begin from something as simple as switch off your phone. No, I'm not switching off my phone.
Okay. So, unruly behavior in aviation industry is particularly serious, just like the medical environment, because the damage is usually as a result of loss of life. Switch off your phone is different from put your phone on flight mode. So, rules and regulations must, is not may. In some airspaces, they permit you to put your phone on flight mode. In some environments and flights, it is switch off. Therefore, there is no ambiguity about compliance with instruction. It is absolute. It is absolute. So you can't say that in some environments, you just put it on flight mode, and you can't say, so why shouldn't I? But whatever the case, please, in aviation sector like medicine too, it is absolute. There is no room for personal opinion.
Now, one of the things that I also saw in the build-up to this conversation, Dr. Oshiemi, is that things we take into the aircraft, perhaps maybe I even ask this question as simply as this. When people go to board the aircraft, do you think there is enough understanding, enough knowledge of the do's and don'ts? Because some people go, board an aircraft like they're boarding a bike or they're boarding a car. So do you think there is significant or sufficient understanding of what is required of a passenger before going on an aircraft?
Okay, so, sorry, this should have come first, and it's not coming list, but I understand what you have said about knowledge before boarding. So what should have come first is to thank the entire citizens and public in Nigeria because of their concern and interest on the subject matter about the value jet and Ibom Air. To also thank the regulators on their recent decision, because it's a learning curve and very proactive, to thank the law enforcement agents and the police for their role, to also thank the legal system because they stepped out, and more importantly to empathize with the offenders and also the airline operators and the consumers, which includes us. It's a big thank you because it's a learning curve, it's a proactive stage. Now back to your question about understanding. So from the legal medicine perspective, if I'm going to tell you to take a prescription, which is how you're going to board a plane, I'm going to say that I'm going to give you this prescription. You should take this drug 3 times a day, or you should take this drug once. It will relieve your pain. It's not a cure. And then I'll ask you, do you understand what you'll do? You say, yes, it is to relieve. It's not a cure. Do you understand how many and how you should? Yes, I do. And then I will also see that this person is of matured age. And then I'll say, do you agree to take this drug? The person says, I agree. That's consent. So back to your question. A person wants to go through an aviation journey. Most of the time, they say they agree. You take the form. Yes, you sign. You bought a ticket. Everything is there. The truth is, that's not the best way to consent to agreements. That's not the best way to ascertain that they have understood. And so there should be more enlightenment, there should be verbal and non-verbal communications, and there should be more help assist. The point is, yes, I understand many people do not understand what they consent to, but it is what it is. It's a learning curve.
Okay.
And so if you go to United Kingdom and all these places, you see more non-verbal communications and verbal assistance to help the journey smoother.
Okay. I'll ask you a professional question from your professional perspective, but I would like you to weave it into this.
Yeah.
Part of the regulations that have moderated aviation, the aviation industry, the aviation security and all, since 9/11, is what they call enhanced passenger screening. And in fact, that one of them is what they call behavior detection. And in the US, for instance, they have what they call behavior detection officers to identify individuals exhibiting suspicious behavior. You want to speak to standards. I don't know if it is something you think we have considered or factored into our space.
Okay. So I can speak as a security professional because I'm trained and graduated from a security department. But I'll speak more as legal medicine and forensic and reconstruction of crime. So the first question is this, and I'll paint a scenario. A person, a captain, entered an airport. The captain was meant to clock in, put his card, sign in, go to the plane. He passed, didn't put his card, went to a toilet. After a while, came out, then went further again, went to the plane. The environment is so trained because both the air hostess is a trained service provider, security, and safety officer in the air. They observed that journey, and the police and everybody was said, this captain did not walk straight. So they went to the toilet, they handcuffed him, detained him, arrested him, went to the toilet, checked his movement, and they saw that he dropped some substance there. And apart from that, they arrested him and checked his blood. Result, he was having high level of alcohol before the stipulated level, and they also dropped some drugs of abuse. This means, as a captain, he is in violation. Now, that is to tell you, even a captain is monitored. So likewise, a person's journey is constantly being screened by some people observing hand movements, jittery movements, aggressive behavior. So yes, that is constantly being done. In Nigeria, they also do it, because I've seen sometimes some operatives invite people, just a moment, they start by, how much do you have on you to declare, and so on and so forth. The level I can't assess because I'm not in the space, but the experience I know, and also as a trained security professional, every security professional is a psychologist and vice versa, because you should study behaviors.
In the cases under review,
okay,
how do you think these play?
Now, I'll speak to this now as a legal medicine and forensic expert. In the case of ValueJet, there are two persons regarded as offenders. QAM1, which is an abbreviation, and the pilots. What are the offense? QAM1, unruly or inappropriate behavior, delaying or stopping a motion. The lawyers will argue differently because they will normally talk about the charge. But I'm making this now from what was seen, and I'll also say the bad side about the forensics. That's the bad side. So unruly behavior, as evidenced by what we saw, from the pilot, who also is a trained safety person, moving the craft in such manner is called not being safe. So those will be called misconduct, which will be attended to, and for the QAM1 will be called unruly, which we've seen. For the EBOM Air, the video which we saw again, which I'll discuss the forensics, Comfort's action in England will be called offenses against the persons, section 18, 19, 20. Permit me, I'm using the United Kingdom laws. We have Nigerian laws, and I was also trained as a security personnel. But again, I'm going to say in an environment where I'm using as the narrative, you know. So offenses against the person, section 19, 18, 19, 20. But, so this was grievous, and it is an offense which should be prosecuted for. And then, of course, the way in which she was handled. But again, as a security professional, if you resist arrest, they were trying to arrest her, she refused, you must use force, but it shouldn't be excessive. And these are issues that, again, the lawyers will argue and discuss. But she also, our own offense is offense against persons by physical assault. And so that, again, will be attended to. But the key issue, therefore, from the perspective will be, the legal medicine expert then says, in England, these persons must be detained, but when these persons are detained, if the behavior is unruly, is it because of under the influence or use of substance, or was it because of insanity, or was it deliberate? It is therefore on these grounds that when a person is in custody, you must be determine the fitness to even give or go through interrogation, and to determine where the person will be detained, perhaps a medical facility or in a correctional custody prior to the charges being perfected. Again, the lawyers will deal with this. But the point I'm saying is, when you detain persons, the police detain persons in England, and you are in the police custody, they shall invite police physicians or forensic physicians or accredited health medical practitioners under Section 12 to determine their mental health state and fitness to proceed on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Kayla is coming in now, but just after this question.
Yeah.
Now that the minister has intervened and spoken to the three major parties, the police, the aviation practitioners, and then the airline operators, what happens?
Yeah. So
all of them, all the culprits have been pardoned, and after 1 month and all.
So I think the minister did one of the best things you will expect, wherein he understood that this is a new kind of journey, and thank God for mobile technology, and so a new journey. Yes, people have been unruly, but they've also violated them. And where do we draw the line? And this is magnanimity of any society sometimes, even state pardon. However, in my own opinion, all the stakeholders, apart from the thank you I've given all the stakeholders, there must be what we call IEC, information, education, and campaign. And there must be shared experiences.
I think that
what has happened in Nigeria does happen in other economies and countries, where when you resist arrest, you will be treated in certain manner, and it is a journey. Sincerely, if I came here to say I had the perfect answer, I'll be wrong.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm using the UK experience.
What's interesting is the minister has also said that there has to be, the lessons have been learned, but then there will be retreats.
Oh, yes.
And he has promised that we're going to be there.
Oh, yes.
The question that I'd love to ask him is it political or not, even though the statement says it's not. Kayla, go ahead.
I love that we're having a mental health conversation about this particular topic, Dr. Abiodun. But I think in many ways, one question that we've been asking is the root cause of unruly behavior. Because in many ways, that's what we're seeing, an escalation when it comes to unruly behavior. And it's not just on the part of passengers. We also see it on the part of people in authority, even with security agents, not adhering to standard operating procedures because they are in a heightened emotional state. I want you to be able to speak to that, the root causes of these unruly behaviors and how they can be checked in the world that we're in right now. Because for many of us who are very social media friendly, we know that there's more coming. There's going to be more, behaviors that we will not quite understand as a people because it's alien to us, but it's things that are happening around the world. How do we check the root causes of this unruly behavior? Is it maybe by being stricter on the populace? What can be done from a mental health perspective?
Okay, so unruly behavior can be deliberate and can be disease caused and can be also under the influence of alcohol and substance of abuse. So let's first look at deliberate. You know the rule. You decide that I want to break the rule because I want to prove that nothing will happen to me. I'm above the law. So that is deliberate, and you can see someone deliberately slap another person or commit an offense and says, yes, I can. It can be deliberate that I am under immunity, I have an immune status, I can park my vehicle anywhere, I can do anything, I have a sort of diplomatic or state immunity. So those, you can say I'm exercising a sort of, and I'm throwing caution to the wind. Now there are some that are not deliberate, but you will still be responsible for such action. For example, a person is under the influence of Canadian hemp, marijuana, colos as it's called, speed, and for those who don't also understand some language, they know the street language of crack, miri, which is amphetamine-like, and those ones will show unruly behavior, but they are under the influence. And then you have those that are insane. They don't even have the capacity to understand what they have caused. And the law then sees this before you also will be sentenced, and the offense will determine the mens rea and actus reus. That is, mens rea being the guilty mind, and then actus reus, the guilty action. So those are the four kinds of things that I want to call the causes, the root causes, or the etiological causes, and then some is called unknown. Maybe.
So when we're in this, when we're looking at, sorry, doctor, just
yes,
so we can get that solution. When we're looking at service delivery, like airports, hotels, the transport sector, where you have to interface with people who may be going through these series of situations that you've mentioned, how can our, let's use the aviation sector since that's what we're talking about this morning, how can operatives in the aviation sector prep themselves for these realities? What can they do in anticipation of the fact that some people may be under the influence, may be having mental health challenges, may be having breakdowns? Many people have talked about the fact that there's a lot of anger in our country. A lot of people are acting out in different ways. How do service delivery people, like people in the aviation sector, prepare themselves to interface with people who are going through these sorts of situations?
Yeah, so I'm sure some know, some don't know. One of the highest surveillance environments in the world is the City of London in terms of CCTV monitoring. And so it means on a 24/7, people are looking at the gates in which people are walking. People are looking at the ways in which people are driving, leaving their lanes and swerving and violating. And so they have an anticipatory and proactive manner, which is surveillancing 24/7, both digitally, and you also have people at their beats. To answer very specifically, therefore, the aviation sector must have different kind of surveillance. Electronic using gadgets, studying people's actions, movements, and gaits, anticipating aggressive and unruly act before commitment, and then also people specifically located at certain distances to keep an eye. So it's both electronic and man surveillance. That is one of the best ways. And then you also have the third leg, which is patrol. So some are generally moving around either from location to location. Those are the ones mobile. You have those who are stationary and then electronic. It is with this surveillance that you can have a better prediction and isolation rates, and you can anticipate.
You know, there are so many questions to raise about this matter. As we spoke before we came on, so what are the gaps that have been noticed? Have the lessons really been learned? How are we? Do we have legal, operational, and human development lessons learned that we can say, okay, this is never going to happen? I guess it's only time that can really tell. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Abiodun Oshiyemi is a legal medicine expert, forensic expert, as well as a medical doctor. We appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're going to bring you again.
So the gaps
hopefully not for this particular one. We'll talk about that some other time. Thank you so much.
So thanks so much. But I think for the gaps, capacity building is all over the world. Everybody, capacity building, investment in technology, surveillance, and then those are proactive, sustainable measures.
As I said, I mean, from the statement of the minister, it seems quite a number of things are already in the pipeline.